Good morning, Bucknutters. Welcome to the Bucknuts Morning 5 here on Wednesday, August 2nd, 2023. I am Dave Biddle. I'll be joined by Steve Hellwagon in just a moment. It's a huge day on the Ohio State beat. We're also going to talk some recruiting. Before we get to that, I want to talk about our latest sponsor, Manscaped. This company is blowing up. All my friends use it. I use it. We heard from Patrick Murphy on Monday's show. He's been a long-time subscriber, customer. If you're a man, you want to look good, you got to get with Manscaped. And we can help you out. We can get you 20% off. Go to manscaped.com, use code Bucknuts for 20% off and free shipping. Manscaped.com, code Bucknuts for free shipping. Unlock your confidence and always use the right tools for the job with Manscaped. So again, go to manscaped.com, use code Bucknuts, 20% off, free shipping. Highly recommend it. All right, let's bring in my guy, Steve Hellwagon. All right. Good to see you. Now I guess I'll start with the bad news. Dylan Stewart, who was seemingly an Ohio State lean for a while. I was told at one point, one of the collectives felt like he was basically a silent commit. We had somebody on our staff, I won't name him. He can say if he wants to, that was hearing the exact same thing. I don't know what changed, but Dylan Stewart, the 5-star defensive end, Steve, is going to South Carolina. Tough to lose a big-time recruit to South Carolina. What do you make of it?
Yeah, again, kids are going to make decisions based on a lot of factors. I think NIL is a factor in it. I can't say what the bidding war was in this case in terms of the NIL inducements that were being made. But, what can you say? I mean, everyone's going to criticize and if they can get Edric Houston as a result of, this, which I think there's a lot of people who think Edric Houston is leaning to Ohio State, then you've succeeded in getting a impact defensive end in this class. And I think that's what's important. I think the transfer portal as well can also be your friend in times of trouble, it seems like. So there's always that possibility as well. But, this hurts a little bit. I mean, South Carolina is not a program really historically that's ever won much of anything. And, obviously he's thinking 3 years to the NFL, and he must believe that that's his best path to get as far as he can get going to the NFL. So it is a little bit interesting. I'm being bugged by a housefly here for some reason, but I
literally bugged.
I don't know what else to say. I mean, it just, I don't have a firm idea for what the disconnect was on Dylan Stewart. But as I said, they're still in on Edric Houston, who could be an impact player nonetheless.
What's your vibe on Edric Houston?
Well, yeah, I just go by Bill Kurlick. I mean, he's our, main guru on it. And I think that he believes that Houston's leaning to Ohio State. And I think he's going to announce on August 22nd, coming up in about 3 weeks. So probably right at the beginning of his season. So I guess just take that with a grain of salt. I mean, there were a lot of people who thought Stewart was leaning to Ohio State, and he ends up going to South Carolina. So, I don't know what to think. I guess just keep a good thought. And as I said, it seems like Ohio State has the inside track, and now you got to finish it off.
All right, so the elephant in the room, Larry Johnson, illustrious career. His first year at Ohio State, they win a national championship. D-line was a big reason why. Now, did he inherit a very good defensive line? Yes. He inherited Joey Bosa and Michael Bennett and Adolphus Washington. Then they had Steve Miller, had a good senior year. That helps. But still, I mean, he comes in, helps win a national championship, was recruiting his butt off, gets guys like Chase Young, both Bosa. Well, you got Bosa that was already there. Nick Bosa was going to come no matter what, but still. What do you make of Larry now? I know the fans are upset. Do you put losing Dylan Stewart on him? Where do you stand with the Larry Johnson situation?
Well, you're going to win some, you're going to lose some. And I know that people are obviously dwelling on the losses and not really, caring so much about the wins. It wasn't all that long ago that Ohio State was the beneficiary. Justin Scott, a big-time defensive tackle out of Chicago St. Ignatius High School, a national top 25 prospect, picked Ohio State. Now, can he play the edge? No, he probably can't. He's probably 310 pounds and going to play in the middle. But they haven't had that kind of impact defensive tackle in a while either. So To me, you can't just dismiss Larry out of hand and not admit, he has won his share of battles here and there. They really didn't get an impact defensive end in the 2023 class. They got Joshua Mickens. Remains to be seen where Moore, the player from Indiana, is going to line up, either inside or outside. Most people have him at around 270, 280, probably, factoring more inside than outside. So, is there a need for an impact defensive end? Certainly. And, I think part and parcel of the Larry Johnson job assessment is how good is the defensive line going to be this year. I think this is a make or break year for Ohio State on defense in regards to the defensive line. You need JT Tuimoloau and Jack Sawyer, Kenyatta Jackson to play like all Big Ten players and impact games. And I think that's going to be something where Larry Johnson is graded this year. He's brought in, a number of pretty good players, I think, on the defensive line. They've got some young blood there as well. So Caden Curry's another example of a guy who's just on the cusp of being a pretty good player as well. So I want to see it this year, both in terms of recruiting and production on the field with Larry Johnson. And, I would think if Ryan Day likes what he sees, then Larry Johnson would still be there in 2024. If Ryan Day thinks there's some slippage or whatever, then change has got to be made. And that's just the way it is.
There's also some good news. I mean, recruiting's crazy when stuff like this happens. I mean, we've talked about Aaron Scott for like the last 10 months on every show, and he finally commits on Sunday, picks the Buckeyes. That should be like what everybody's like thinking about for like at least a week, right? No. Then 2 days later, Dylan Stewart, of course, picks South Carolina. But then Ohio State, hours after that, they get Nigel Glover. I'm sure most people watching the show, listening to the show, know who Nigel Glover is. If you don't, a young man from Northmont in the Dayton area, 2023 class, will be a true freshman this year, committed to Northwestern, had enrolled at Northwestern, but after Pat Fitzgerald got fired, he entered the portal, and there was a lot of smoke he could go to Michigan, and he picked Ohio State, and he's going to be a linebacker for the Buckeyes, probably a red shirt this year, not even gray shirt, and he has some NIL money, I'm hearing, might not be on scholarship. And then maybe as a redshirt freshman, third-year sophomore, he can crack the two deep. Steve, what do you think about them getting Nigel Glover?
Very good pickup. Guy that was committed to Northwestern from April 2022 on, so he was not at Ohio State's camp last year. And Jim Knowles was well acquainted with him. And, I wouldn't say they just took a pass on him. It was just kind of the way things flowed. And, again, this is a guy that's going to come in and help you this year. I don't know necessarily on the field. I watched his tape. It looks to me like he's an outstanding open field tackler. Played safety about 12, 15 yards off the ball at Northmont. Triggered and made plays in the run and in the pass. Short passing game, he'd come up and hit the receiver. I think he is a guy that if you move him to will linebacker, he's going to be involved in more plays. I like him fundamentally, has great footwork, and appears to be, at least on tape, a very good tackler. We know Northmont plays great competition with Centerville, Fairmont, all the teams in that GWAC league there in the Dayton area, Springfield as well. I mean, there's a lot of great opponents on that schedule.
Beaver Creek's also in that league.
Beaver Creek, yeah, I heard.
They usually go about 0 for their entire GWAC schedule in football. My alma mater of Beaver Creek. Yeah,
I hear they've got great athletics at Beaver Creek.
Other than football, we actually did, but yeah, go ahead.
The Creek. So I'm excited about Nigel Glover. I don't look at it that you're taking Northwestern's leftovers. I look at it that the rankings say what they will. He's ranked number 303 or something like that in the composite. Nationally, number 20 or 25 in terms of the linebacker position, was considered a top 10 player in the state of Ohio. So this isn't a guy who's ranked 30th or 40th in Ohio who just kind of fell in their lap, 2 days before the preseason started and they jumped at him. This is a guy that's got some support from the recruiting analysts that this is a pretty good player. And I'm on board with it. And what I saw on tape was good. I'm eager to see how he fits in as a linebacker. May take a year or so to fully learn and grasp that position with James Laurinaitis teaching him and Jim Knowles teaching him. And so I see no risk in this. Sounds like he's paying his own way this fall, probably with the help of some NIL money. And then, I guess I can't speak to any of that.
That's what I'm hearing too. That's what I'm hearing too, Steve.
Yeah. I mean, it just makes sense. And then go on scholarship in January. But, could redshirt this year. Or, as I said, his open field tackling, you could put him on a kick return or kick coverage and punt coverage team. If he's one of their 10 best in those regards, then he should be on those teams as well.
Let's switch gears from recruiting. It's a big day on the beat. We're going to get Ryan Day about 11:30. We're going to get quarterbacks Kyle McCord and Devin Brown, maybe some other quarterbacks. Practice begins tomorrow. So Coach Day is not going to say anything different than what he said at Big Ten Media Days, Steve, about the quarterbacks. It's going to be easy for him to be like, nothing's changed. We haven't practiced since I talked to you guys last. But at least we'll get a chance to speak with Coach Day about everything else we want to talk about and the quarterbacks. And speaking with Kyle McCord and Devin Brown will certainly be interesting. What are you most curious to hear about today, Steve?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of questions. I think just pertaining to camp, I think the Big Ten Media Days, you're kind of talking about the season and some big picture items, but now you can drill down to the makeup of what camp will look like and the reasons why they do different things different ways. And really this first 2 or 3 days are just to get them acclimated. It really picks up on Monday when they move into the hotel for a couple of weeks. And that's when, until the start of classes later in the month, this is when you really become immersed in football, in the learning process and the building process, and everything physically is such a grind. I think that's what the next 2 weeks will be about. These first 3 days are just to kind of get started. So to me, I think there's different things. Obviously, defensively, are they going to be much improved? Which I think the evidence we saw in the spring says they will be much improved. An offensive line sounded like when he was in Indianapolis, he's very optimistic about some of the younger guys like Tegratash Bola, Luke Montgomery coming in and maybe playing some on the offensive line. And so I guess we'll see how it all fits together. It's all supposition until you put it out there on the field in the next 3 weeks and figure out who are the players that you can really trust when the games are on the line. Who are the guys that you're going to put trust in with playing time? One of the things he talked about was how the mainstays on the defensive line, we talked about it earlier, the defensive ends, the defensive tackles, Ty Hamilton, Tyleek Williams, and Mike Hall, those three in particular, need to play a ton of reps and help this team win games and really set the tone for this team defensively up front. And I think that's something that hasn't happened here last 3 or 4 years. I think they got to get back to doing that. So a lot of stuff out there, and I'm interested to see. Obviously, also the health of this team. He said all the scholarship players when he was in Indianapolis would be ready to go. Does that mean Evan Pryor's full go? Does that mean Xavier Johnson and Julian Fleming and everybody else is full go and ready? Steele Chambers, Tommy Eichenberg, are those guys all set? Court Williams, this is a guy that we've heard so much about with leadership and everything else behind the scenes, but he's never been healthy enough to get on the field for more than a game or two at a time. Is he ready to make an impact at safety? Who are the safeties? Looks like you got 6 or 7 candidates there, and they're going to sort through that beginning later this week. So much meat on the bone there. And, is this team, ultimately, going to win the Big Ten, going to beat Michigan, going to go to the playoff? Those are the 3 big hurdles. Haven't cleared many of those hurdles here in recent years. Need to get back to doing that.
Last thing, do you think McCord is definitely the guy? And if so, what are your expectations for Kyle McCord this season?
Yeah, I think McCord is going to be the guy early in the season. And I think that they'll take an assessment, early after they play Indiana. I forget the order, Youngstown or Western Kentucky, one or the other.
Youngstown, then Western Kentucky. Yep.
I think they'll take an assessment, early in that season, get Devin Brown in some action in some of those early season games, and perhaps it's a no-brainer that Kyle McCord is the guy, and he goes on from there with Notre Dame and Wisconsin and all the tough games that are going to follow after that. So to me, yes, it's his job as of right now. Wouldn't surprise me if he starts, the season, starts the first several games, but the proof is going to be how do you do on Saturday in those games, and that's where he has really got to play good football. The people around him have to play great football to support him. The quarterback's always the function of the people around him. If the offensive line is not sufficient, then they got a problem. So I'm interested to see how he handles his business. We're not going to get to watch a lot of preseason practice, unfortunately, to gauge that. But, we'll get an idea here or there how much faith they have in Kyle McCord. Sounds like everybody's on board. So we'll see how it goes.
You've got a longer drive than I do over to Ohio State, so I better let you go. Thank you, Steve.
35 minutes, yeah.
Appreciate you, sir. Thank you.
All right, bud.
He is Steve Hellwagon. Great stuff from Steve. I'm going to close the show talking about another one of our sponsors that we're so thrilled to be partners with, Caldera Lab, the #1 product for men's skincare. Get rid of bags under your eyes, like some people like me might have, prevent wrinkles. If you're a young guy like Patrick Murphy, prevent those wrinkles before they come. So Caldera Lab, the #1 product for men's skincare. I highly recommend it. And you can get 20% off because of the Bucknuts Morning 5. Go to calderalab.com, use code Bucknuts and get 20% off. Again, go to calderalab.com and use code Bucknuts for 20% off. So again, highly recommend it. Jump into skin and first impression royalty with Caldera Lab. There you go. Appreciate you guys riding with me. I am Dave Biddle. Thanks to Steve Hellwagon. Thanks to all of you. Keep it locked to Bucknuts. We're going to have full coverage of Ryan Day, Kyle McCord, Devin Brown, and maybe some other quarterbacks. We shall see. Thanks again to all of you. I appreciate it. Hope everyone has a great rest of your day.